As a planet, we are drowning in stuff, especially clothing. The apparel industry, my industry, is one of the most polluting in the world. According to a recent EPA report, there is 12.97 million tons of apparel municipal solid waste generated each year. 1.7 million tons are recycled. You know, that sounds good, right? 2.1 million tons are incinerated, and 8.9 million tons are sent to landfills. But why are we drowning in stuff? Because we are making trendy, cheap garments that we don't really need. Companies are using algorithms to scrape the internet and digital design tools to create product that we don't need. According to a 2000 to 2015 study done by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the amount of clothing being produced every year has doubled. There is one retailer that creates 1,000 new styles every day to put on its site. That's hundreds of thousands of new styles per year. And donating isn't the answer. Sure, it feels good to donate, but you are outsourcing the problem. You're passing it down to other people. What you see behind me is photos of Chile's Atacama's desert, which is the final resting place of clothing that is cheap and doesn't serve a purpose and can take up to hundreds of years to decompose. And this is just one of many such sites that you'll see around the world. And now there's all kinds of ideas on how to solve for this. There's upcycling, there's recycling, there's organic materials, there's circular design, but none of these are solving for these cheap products. What we need are high quality goods that are useful, that are functional, because these are things that don't get thrown away. I believe that design is solving problems, and great design, founded in functionality and rooted in empathetic processes, can help us out of this apparel apocalypse. Functional things last because functional things have a purpose and functional things serve a need. You don't throw away a great tool. You use things, you get connected to them, you create that emotional connection, and then makes that difficult for you to throw them away. And durable things actually get better with age. High quality jeans, they give a visual narrative of how they are used throughout their life. Functional, high quality boots get better every time you use them. They get more comfortable, they get more pliable. Cast iron skillets get better with each use as you continue to season them. Now, how do you create functional things? Through empathy, through listening, through understanding, through spending time with people, through understanding the problems that they face, and using product design as a way to help them solve their problems. It takes time. It takes listening. Our process at Carhartt is an empathetic design-based process. It can take months, years for us to be satisfied before we release product out into the wild. It starts with job site research, spending time with hard-working people, understanding their challenges. We then sketch solutions. We seek feedback from the field. We build and fit prototypes. We reiterate, we refit before we bring it into the store. And once we do bring it into the store, we have a repair service afterwards because we stand by our product and we want to make sure that it stays in rotations and it stays out of landfills. So a great doctrine to think of when making product is to make things better, not different. These two bibs were designed 83 years apart. They both look like they could have come out last week. We've made subtle incremental differences to make them durable, to make them more functional, to make them better. One such example is the pocket watch pocket, which was originally put in there in 1889 when we co-created with hardworking trained engineers in Southeast Michigan because we knew that they needed a place to put their pocket watch when they were out on their job sites. When we went out to redesign them, we put in a cell phone pocket. So what did we do? We added value. We made them better, not different, not trendy. We didn't convince people they needed something new. We showed them the value of bringing out better product. This is an example of a garment that was sent back to us at Carhartt, which happens all the time. This gentleman wore his bibs, and when they had tears or little issues with them, his wife repaired them. And when she passed on, his neighbor then repaired them as well. And when she too passed, he sent them back to us because he had created an emotional connection with the product. He couldn't see it go to waste. He sent it back to us. Now, we put this theory to the test. I work with a friend of mine who leads product design in another company, and we took the theme of the conference, we took the golden ratio, we took Fibonacci's sequence, and we fed it into Midjourney, and we asked it to create some product, and it made some stuff that looks great, but this is not functional, this is not necessary. It's aesthetic, but it doesn't really fit a need. Where the computer struggled was when we asked it to do something functional. So we asked it to do a multi-pocketed pant. And look, we didn't, this is not doctored in any way. This is what came back. This is obviously ridiculous. And you can see that it struggles with it. I mean, this is aesthetic, but this is not functional. Because again, it doesn't have that human connection to be able to make this product. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about cost versus enduring value. If you just look at cost, you are going to make the wrong conclusions. Yeah, nobody wants to spend more money. Okay, cheaper is better. Let's look at the cost. What I like to look at, what we like to look at where I work, is the idea of enduring value. These are things that have performance. These are things that have function. These are things that last. These are things that you keep in rotation. Now, to calculate enduring value, I like to use a formula that I call CPW, which stands for cost per wear. So you take the cost, you divide it by the amount of times that you use it, and that gives you the enduring value. How long did I keep it? How many times was this in rotation? We're looking at a pair of boots. I actually still own these. I bought these 32 years ago at Enos & Sons here in Ann Arbor when I was an undergrad. I'm looking at a price of $175, which I think is probably low. 300 wears, arbitrary number. I bet I've worn it more than that. But when you take that amount of money that I spent, divide it by the amount of wears that I use, you get a 58 cents for the cost per wear. So let's look at something here generated through fast fashion. This is not a functional item. Imagine wearing these in Michigan when the snow is going down. I mean, I see people slipping, breaking ankles. Those roses would get soggy and nasty, but they're 20 bucks. I mean, that sounds great. I think somebody keeps these for a year. Maybe they wear them 5 times, and you'll see that the cost per wear, the CPW for this is $4, so it's $4. And when you put the two of them together, my argument would be that the one that you spent more money on, the one that's functional, the one that's durable, the one that's timeless, is actually the better investment. Again, if you just look at cost, you might come to the wrong conclusions. So let's look at something on the other end of the spectrum. Let's look at luxury goods, all right? Let's look at things that are very expensive, right? I think what might surprise a lot of people here is that but a lot of luxury goods, a lot of luxury houses actually started out as highly functional products. I'm just gonna talk about 2 here. So Louis Vuitton was a great trunk maker. Their big breakthrough was making 90-degree angles, making rigid-sided trunks that were easy to stack. They were wrapped in Trianon canvas, which was airtight and waterproof. So they built something better, not something different. Now we're going to talk about Hermes. Hermes, founded in 1837, started out making equestrian gear for European nobility. And I want to talk in particular about the Birkin bag, which is interesting because I think a lot of people would know this as a very high fashion item. We see celebrities wearing it all the time. But what I think people don't know, this actually has highly functional roots. So Jane Birkin, who was a British actress, as the story goes, she was on a plane, probably in first class. She had an open bag, and she spilled everything all over the floor. She happened to be sitting next to the chairman of Hermes. And immediately, the two of them got together and started to design a better bag. They put a flap on it. They put straps around it to hold it secure, and Jane was a young mother at the time, so they actually made it big enough to put a baby bottle in it. So they made this highly functional item. Now, let's look at what I'm calling functional luxury. So this is luxury items that have functional values to it. This is incredibly well-made product. Hermes doesn't really post their prices, but I did a little research. I found one here. I think it's timeless, the fact that it's brown. Yeah, I heard somebody make a noise. That's a lot of money, right? But if you take that amount of money and you look at the way that maybe a celebrity would wear it, they don't want to be photographed twice with the same bag. So maybe they use it 10 times. The CPW is huge. It's over $1,800. But imagine if you use this as a functional item. Say you used it every day for 30 years, or you use it every other day and then you pass it on to someone else. You can see that if this goes from being a fashion item to being a functional item, all of a sudden the price comes way down, and this is going to be maybe a better investment than those cheap pair of boots, as long as you're using it, right? And this is a potential generational item. And something really interesting with the Birkin is that these actually gain in value. So if you hold on to these gain in value. So I just want to be very clear. I'm not telling students here to run out and buy high fashion items. Don't go tell your parents, Ben said to buy this purse. But what I am saying is that you should be clear on how you're spending your money. You should understand it. You should look at these things. And if you are going to buy these, buy the functional ones and use them. Also, you notice I picked the brown bag. Pick one in a neutral color so it goes with everything. And then if you actually do buy it, buy one, don't buy six. Use it as you can tell your parents I said that. Use that as a functional item. Now, let's look at something very different here. Let's look at orange juicers. So I looked at the top selling orange juicers on Amazon. And these exhibit a lot of very strong design principles. You'll notice that they're intuitive. You know how to use them. They're one-handed usage. They do the job right. They get the juice out of the orange. All very well-reviewed items. Now let's look at this. If I didn't tell you this was an orange juicer, you might not know it's an orange juicer. And anybody who's used one of these knows that you have to use two hands. You're kind of grinding the thing in there. Pulp gets everywhere. I would argue this is not an empathetically designed functional item, but maybe that's not the point. So on the 25th anniversary of this item, the manufacturer came out and said the original intent of the product was not to actually be functional, but to spark conversation. All right, so let's put that through my model here of CPW. Let's see what happens. It's $110. I don't know, 0 uses, CPW. How many conversations did it start? And look, what do I know? This is in design museums around the world. It's celebrating anniversaries. People love this item. But I'll tell you this, I know this is that when I looked on eBay, an interesting thing happened. You'll notice that this lost value. So the non-functional item that starts conversations doesn't hold its value, which really is not a surprise. This idea of using functionality as a design principle is nothing new. It's a great Shaker design philosophy of don't make something unless it is both necessary and useful. And if it's both, don't hesitate to make it beautiful. The one thing that I would say is I do believe that functional items are inherently beautiful and elegant because, like in nature, the form follows the function. So focus on functionality. Why? Because slow functionality is the cure for fast fashion. It takes empathy, it takes time, it takes listening, it takes understanding so that you can use good design to create product solutions to help people problem solve in their lives. And great design creates an emotional attachment because great designs, great functional designs have a purpose, they serve a need, and when something is useful, when something makes your life better, you use it, you take care of it, you treasure it, which is why functional is sustainable. So thank you.